Hi again, welcome to the YouTube. Hi again, welcome to the Louise Jannetta YouTube channel. Today we're going to be doing a rose in watercolour, but the issue isn't really the watercolour paint, although obviously that will be involved. It's to do with why you do a rose and how you do the rose and what it is you want out of the rose. So we'll do a couple of sketches first, looking at composition and thinking about what you really like about what you're approaching, your methods, the things you're going to focus on. And really it's an introduction into thinking beyond the image. So why are you using that image and what is it that you want to say? I mean, it can just be you want a really beautiful composition with a really beautiful rose, or you can want it to have the thorns on it with the suggestion that something so beautiful could be dangerous. In any case, it's up to you. These are just a few things we can think about as we go along. So here's our rose, and I chose it partly because it is orange and yellows, so it gives us some really lovely colours to play with. And it's evident that the darks are in the centre. So you've got some lovely comparisons, contrasts that you can utilise. Like a dark red rose, you already start off with dark colours and the contrasts aren't so evident. Right, so why do you choose the rose and how are you going to look at it? Are you going to present it just as a beautiful rose, as a botanical drawing? Or are you going to give it sort of more character? Or in any case, what I want is to get the sort of essence of the rose in its glory and in its danger, in the fact that it's quite short-lived. I'm going to do a couple of sketches just to get what I want out of it. So in the sketchbook, I'm just really having a look at the sort of shapes that I want and how I want it to come out and respond and what it is that I want to include in the image. Thinking as well, the piece of paper I'm going to use and, you know, the size and shapes of things that I'm going to want and what I want to include. So that's one possibility. I don't know if you can see it, and it really is just, you know, I'm looking at shapes and what it is that works really well so that I know what to include when I draw it, because we do get the choice to put in what we want, don't we, and leave out what we don't want. It's not a question of just drawing what's there, because we do really want as well to pick out the things that are going to make the image work. Okay, so that's a perfect example. I want the little funny little leaves that are showing underneath the leaf because they're so lovely. They're lovely, interesting shapes. I want these leaves, see? So if I put that petal in, I lose that leaf. And I also want this lovely shape that it makes. That's really clumsily drawn, but I pressed hard so that you can see. And I want to put a couple of thorns in. So there's all these issues that you want to bung in as well. And then I want the leaves to be a part of the image and not separate. So what do I include in it? Where do I put them? How do they actually enhance the composition? So in other words, I'm going to have to leave out that petal, but I do like that petal. So what do? Do you turn it all more on one side? So you've got that lovely petal, you've got the lovely scoop of the rose, you've got this lovely quite abstract petal just coming out over here, and then do I do the stem coming out there so that I can still include these lovely beautiful little extra leaves that you get? And then again, just think what it is that you're going to try and get out of it. So maybe you show more of the centre of the rose, and then if it's more of that angle, so it's more like that, and again you can just do roughly, you know, pick out the features of it, almost make it like a cartoon, because all you're doing is working out what it is you want from it. And then, of course, you've got the choice of bunging in leaves within that, or just so the other ones could actually come out here. So I quite like that. So I've ended up with the tracing. I've amended a couple of pieces that I wasn't too keen on for the composition, and now I'll just trace it over. But what you get is not what is actually there, but elements of it that you really want, elements that you're going to use to create a composition, referring to this to get the information on how to paint it. So I've traced it onto my paper, stretched watercolour paper. And I've made a few amendments again, just so that the sensitivity still works, but your eye can still read the picture okay. Changed the leaves a bit, added some more movement, redefined it a bit. And again, it's not really like the rose that I've got. It's more open, more flamboyant, but I'm not tracing it. We are enhancing it, is the idea. I'm going to begin with a wash background, so I've put the board at an angle, the image is on there, and I'm going to do a wash that's just even all the way down. So I've already made up a wash with the colour I want, and I'll apply it. There is a video to show you how to do this on other parts of my YouTube channel, so you can go to that and have a look. Now this looks quite dark, but it will dry lighter. And what I want to do is leave the bits that I want brighter so that the light comes through it white, because you use that to make the whole thing really translucent. So go around your edges relatively carefully and try not to let it dry at any point. So follow the pool of water down. If it's not coming down, tip your board up a bit. It doesn't matter if you go over the edges a bit, but you don't want to obliterate the white of the bits that you want to be more translucent. And take off any excess pooling that you don't want. And change your paintbrush as well, like in intricate areas which requires a bit more shaping, just use a different paintbrush. While you're letting that dry, think about the colours and the washes that you want for the next layer. So I'm going to mix the colours now that I want, and I want a nice clean palette. I want a spare piece of paper so I can just see what it is that I'm mixing. And I'm going to get quite a bit of it together. There's a lovely brown green. So you want to know what you've done, what colours you've used. So I've used an earthy brown and a green there, and there's different elements of that you can use, so you know that's the colour you want. Then with a clean paintbrush, think about the oranges you want, so get some yellows, and that's okay. I was thinking it was corrupted with a bit of green, that, but it's not too bad. So there's a nice warm yellow. Here's a lovely orange. I will give you all the names. It's quite a sharp red orange, which does really work on some parts of it. It's an alizarin crimson, which will probably work really well with the orange. Yeah, sort of, but it goes a bit red So again, think what you need. I want a different sort of orange. See, look at the difference between those oranges. So I've got 3 different oranges now. Okay, so that's a lovely, oh, that's beautiful. Look at that. Look at the way that's granulated. The colours have separated a bit, but it's lovely. So we've got some really nice colours there. The stem is going to be a sort of a lighter green, and then I'm going to bring these darker greens in as glazes as I go on. So here goes. This is where I keep the whole thing flat because I don't want it to run sideways. Really have a good look at the paintbrushes you've got as well. I know that I haven't got quite enough here. So I'm going to begin by putting in the stem, which is a mixture of green and yellow. And I want it really, really light. And I'm going to more or less mix the, so I can check it up there. That's 2 yellow, 2 green. I want more yellow. Yeah, there we go. So just mix enough more or less that I've got the stem. And here I go. Oh, I've missed some of the edges there, but I can put it after. I'm just going to bung a few of them in. And I'm going to keep this so simple because I did some orchids and they just got too complex and I didn't like them. I'm not going to go bonkers on this. And if you try really hard not to let the colours be solid, let them mix and let them run into one another. You'll notice I don't care if I'm going over the edges because I'll tidy it all up at the end. And try and think about everything at once. And where you've got 2 next to each other, like there, wait till this dries and then add colour to the other one so that you've got an obvious edge and it really helps the definition at the end. And then let the watercolour pigment seep across of its own accord like we have done in previous images. Right, with the leaves, they're a much, much lighter green. I'm just going to show you one first of all. There's a whiteness to them as well, so I'm going to put stuff on so that I can allow that whiteness to come through. And again, really, so I'm just putting some glazes on, which I will then add to afterwards. And anything I want to leave lighter, like I want the actual stem lighter, the actual vein in the middle, leave it to have a bit of light. There you are. And use your tools to help you mark make. And you can do anything that's not next to anything else at this point. And see here, the pigments have moved about and it's really beautiful as it is. You know, you've got to try and keep it, not overdo it, and enjoy it for what it is. Quite difficult to do, I suppose. I just wanted to show you some of the leaves and how the colour has, the pigments have granulated and separated a bit. But of course they're just lovely, and you have to make sure you keep them. Make sure you don't obliterate. The way that the watercolour actually moves is so lovely. The other thing I found is not to finish areas. Like, don't just concentrate on the leaves and then do the rose, because then you don't balance the colours and you're not aware of the colours that are needed throughout the whole picture. So try and do the whole lot. Try and think about the whole lot at once. So my palette's a bit of a mess. It's very basically green. So I'm going to make sure I take all the colour off, and then I'm going to go in with the yellows and so on for the rose. Now again, it's unfortunate because I am working towards the light so that this is well lit, the work's well lit. Well, I'm making it up basically in any case. So I shall do what petals on the rose I can do. I think even my yellow has got very green, so I'm going to take that out as well. Colours corrupt really quickly, and we do have to be aware that they are corrupting really quickly. Okay, so the rose is these wonderful oranges and yellows, and very, very light oranges as well, like really, really soft, gentle oranges. So use those contrasts to your advantage. There's some fantastic pinks in it as well. So I'm going to start off with an orange wash and just do the shapes that I've got within the shape. Doesn't matter if I go over at this point. In fact, it works really nicely. But don't go on to the next petal, because you're going to use the edges to make contrasts. You're going to use the water tension and the fluidity of the water in the way it carries the pigment to carry the pigment and to give you darks. And it's really, really simplistic. So just add a bit of yellow and stuff just to add interest, just to give it a richness. Anywhere that you want darker at this point, you want it to blend it in, and you want it to go from light to dark, so you have the possibility of these contrasts. You put it in at this point when it's still wet, and just let it ooze through into the pigment. I'm going to make one a bit more pinker. There was that lovely, very red orange. I'm going to put some of that in right at the very edges, and then use the orange. I just want a bit of pink just on the inside of this, and again just to let it seep through. I'm going to make this a bit darker here. I do actually want that a bit more intense orange, so just a wee bit. And you have to be brave. You have to let these colours come through and bung them in, because they're so beautiful on the rose. Just those beautiful subtle colours. So I do this a lot. I do these sort of lines through because it just helps with the shape and the drawing of it. It's basically drawing, isn't it? And again, see this, you're using the sort of tonality of it all to work for you. And then even that where it's cauliflowered a bit, where the pigments have stayed in certain places, it's nice. I like it. Already, look, it looks amazing. Okay, you can keep going because you can go to all the ones that aren't next to each other. For instance, that one. So just pick out what it's going to be, decide on it, and pop it in and start the process off. So you do all the ones, 2 spaces away from each other. And again, I'm not really copying what's actually on the rose. I'm much more interested in what I can make of the rose, what it is that my paints are going to let me do to the rose. Right, while that dries, I'm just going to go and do a bit more of the leaves, because these ones are drying next door to each other. So just have a quick look at my flower and think about what I want to do. This one's quite dark on this side, light on this side, so I'll probably go for, well, dark on this side and light, and no, I think I'll go for a dark one in there. So I'm actually using some of the oranges and stuff that had left behind. That's too brown. I should have tested that first, you see. So it was too brown. I'm going to take that colour out of that palette, make sure everything's nice and clean again. I've got this strange sort of emerald green which works really well with this. Sort of gives it a strange vibrancy, so I'm going to use that. And also, for some reason, it doesn't like the brown pigment. It sort of reacts against each other, so I'm enjoying that. And try and keep these edges lovely because there's a gorgeous watermark there. Change my paintbrush. Just bring this lovely shape around here that I want. Make sure they come over the edge enough so it's not too regular. Right, that's lovely. And the little bit of orange worked really well on the edge of that because it looks like it's sort of picking up the colour from the rose. And again, it just adds some really nice interest. This one was a folded over one. See if I can find it. Find my reference. I can't. It's really light on the underside. It's got a lovely blue grey sheen to it, so I'm going to go for that. So let's have a bluey grey sheen on this. And it's very light. Oh, it's beautiful again. Sometimes colours just work. I mean, look at that blue on there. I just want you to be able to recognise that there is a blue on there. And I'm going to put a bit of brown in there, so it's not quite so blue. And then if that's too dark, just lift it out with a tissue paper. So use sensitivity of your mark making. Right, and I'm going to start thinking about some of these. Oh, my light has completely gone. And the next thing I'm going to have to invest in is studio lights, isn't it? Right, on these, I'm going to just pick out some of the marks that you get in leaves. There's some, whoops, too dark. So get in the shapes that I want. It's such a beautiful colour. I do like that dark blue. It seems to go very well against the orange, because of course blue and orange are opposites, aren't they? Some of these are just lovely as well. I think quite a few. This leaf now, which went dark again, in the same way as I did before. So a bit of green which isn't too dark. Right, let's go back to the rose. This is where I smudge everything. Have a look at the rose again. So what do I want different? I love the translucency of these, so I want to keep that. This has got the most amazing, deep, rich colour, so I'm going to go in for that, I think, just to see what happens with it. That's just a... Oops, a daisy. Very clumsy there. So, but it's not the colour I want. The sort of yellow of it though makes it really hum. I'm going to leave a space there. And the idea of that is that it's almost too intense. In fact, I absolutely love that. So I'm going to just put a bit more of that in here. And that's glazing over the other yellows that are already there. I'll leave that. I can take that out if I want, but and I don't want a sharp edge on there either, so I'm just going to put a bit of, pull that through there so that it colours it. There. And it's just a question of observing it and deciding what it is you want out of it, isn't it, still? So let's see if I can make this a bit redder. Okay, that's enough. I'm going to bring a couple of little red angles in of this fluting. Just like so. But again, not too much. I do actually want a rich red in there. It's blending through. Again, orange red coming down through here, oozing into the edges of these. Well, it's not this reddy orange I'm doing. I do actually really like that reddy orange through there. So I'm gonna... Okay, anywhere that's not, hasn't got a wet edge now, I'm going to look at. So that's got a wet edge, that one hasn't, that's dry. So I'm going to pop in some more colour in here. Actually, first of all, I'm going to get a beautiful orange again. Intense, that colour, so it's really helpful. I'm going to leave that for a bit. Go back onto the leaves at the bottom. The thorns, an ochre and a red. And then it's just a question of finishing off these. Again, if you make everything really detailed, then it sort of spoils it. It's almost nicer to have enough details so that you know that the rest is detailed. So your mind fills it in. You're letting somebody's intelligence fill it in. So just don't worry about all the detail. I'm going to bring in some at the bottom of this because I just want this to have a bit of description. Not much though. And same with this one. And then that's enough. Right, I think that's dry. Okay, I'm going to do whatever's happened here. Okay, I'm going to do this bit in here because that's dry. I'm going to go back to my lovely trusted orange again. I got a bit scared. So I just want an orange in there. So this is the top side of the last leaf. I'm just going to pop that in. And again, try and keep it sensitive and nice. And not too much detail because we want the main picture, the rose, to have most of the, to sort of take on all the strength of character and so on. So try and let it all focus on the main character. These are actually quite nice because they've got a funny little edge to them in the darker green, so I'm going to put that in. Oh, go more into the middle now. I'm enjoying some of these depths of colour as well, depths of tone. And I want it's very dark in the middle. And again, I just got it up against each other, so it's just the lights against the darks and the contrasts that you're bringing out. That's dry there, so I'm going to do this one. And again, I'm just going to pick out a light orange. I'm going to take it right through because I'm going to use the whole of that shape. So I've got the orange, I'm going to put a bit of yellow in there just to make it deep and rich. And then some of this lovely reddy orange, just so that that's got some dark, some depth to it. So it melts through with some water there. Okay, and I'm going to put some pink in down the bottom here because it's not quite sort of deep enough, that, considering it's the real inside of it all. Same with there. Right, this bit here's all dry, or dry enough, so that's actually quite dark. So I'm going to lift it through with a lighter colour orange. But that inside of it, oh, I hope that's dry. The inside of it I want quite dark. Again, you can use that using the contrast against those edges. So I'm going to put pinks. There's my lovely pink there. Put pinks in there and just let it sink through. What's that? See this bit? Is it two? There's two different petals there. So there's that one and that one. I'm going to do the orange one first. I'm going to do this one first because it's dry. So bring the orange around, bring it down just to the shape. Again, just leave the edge pale. But this one, I want to take these over the edge. It's sort of not described, is it? It's not one thing or t'other. And that hasn't blended through, so I'm just going to let it blend through a bit. That internal bit can go in, so, but this, I want this quite dark, I think, quite intense. This bit, to the bottom like so. Right now, let's get a light colour into this one. A little more pink. So there you have it, the finished rose, the sort of essence of a rose as much as anything. There's a couple of things that could be done, like the edge of this could be done here, could be darkened, and the highlights come up a bit more. Oh, I do not like that. Ugly, ugly, ugly. It was nice before. That's better. Okay, I think that's it. No more fussing. Bring in a bit of dark under there. That's like very, very dry, so you get a really clean line. And you just got to remember where it is that you're supposed to be putting your darks. You know these shadows, but it's the underside, isn't it? That's my nice blue. Other good paintbrush. I just want some blues, some darks into the thing. Yeah, those really, really fine lines really work, which I don't do often enough. Pick it out enough. There, I hope it's of some use. Okay, thank you. If you like the videos, could you please remember to like and subscribe? Hope it's of some use, and look after yourselves. All the best. Bye.